Hey, Gary, you notice anything different about the show?
It is now in brand new HD Technicolor Remix High Resolution Audio.
Yes, it is 3D DVD audio 7.1. Boom, boom, boom. 7.2 extra subwoofers.
The juice is loose. But in addition to that, I've noticed our brand new, absolutely amazing podcast art, cover art for the show. So I did the art for the first one go round, and I never thought the show would actually get big and good. Mm-hmm. Like I think that's kind of charming in a bad way, but it is not great. Yeah. And this is 1,000 times better.
Yeah, this is great.
This is 1,000 times better.
Do you know who did it?
I do.
Yeah. Do you want me to tell you?
Let's say it at the same time.
Okay. Three, two, one. Nick
Vincent Van Gogh.
Yours is better, but not by much.
Not by much.
Yeah.
Nick Daniel.
Yeah, Nick Daniel, who is also the sponsor for this episode.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And also like a wonderful dude.
Yeah.
Very talented. And even if this cover art did not prove that to you, checking out his webcomic, which we've told you to do before, and we're going to tell you to do again, would prove that to you because it's wonderful. It's called Latchkey Kingdom.
Yeah, you can find it at latchkeykingdom.com, and it is apropos for this episode because the first chapter of it features a bunch of cute, filthy little rats.
Yeah. Yeah, just like this episode. Features a bunch of cute little rats. And it's great. Like the first arc of that really sets the tone, and it's a tone that we both enjoy quite a bit. Mm-hmm. So cover art, Latchkey Kingdom. This guy he's a double threat. He's more than a double threat. He's probably an infinite threat. He's a polymath. Yeah. He's wonderful. Yeah. And thank you so much for that cover art. If you guys like it, let us know and let him know. Mm-hmm. Reach out to Nick and let him know. Throw him some appreciation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And once more, that is latchkeykingdom.com.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Kole Ross.
And I'm Dave Klein.
And you're listening to Bonfireside Chat. It is a cursed favorite.
And this week we are talking about Sinner's Rise and the Grave of the Saints, kind of doing a little bit of house cleaning before we jump into some of these other spokes on the wheel. As you heard, we're joined by, I would not hesitate to say, although I'm hesitating right now, YouTube superstar, Dave Klein. Thank you for joining us, Dave.
Well, that's a big title to give me, superstar. Well, thanks for that. I'll take it.
Yes.
Yeah,
sure.
We mean in the general sense, not the movie, not the Molly Shannon video. And
well, I was really excited thinking about like the movie version of Superstar. Superstar.
Yeah.
Early Will Ferrell.
Yeah, his early work. Yeah, so as we've mentioned Dave's videos, the Dave Control Live channel several times on the show, in reference to his excellent lore work and everything. And Dave, can you just talk just a little bit about how you got into doing that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been doing video game related stuff for 6 years, or 7 years actually now. I guess 7 years. My first online gaming YouTube video was 2007, so I guess that's 7 years. And I've been working for various companies for like G4 I was at. I've worked with Machinima and other companies for a long time, and I was finally like, I want to start my own channel. And I'm into Dark Souls, so I was just started making Dark Souls content just because it was what I was into at the time. And that was about almost a year ago. And it just started getting really big after I made my first lore video, which was on Nito, because it was something that no one else had been discussing the lore on Nito yet. And Vadi Vidya ended up liking that video and then using some of the info I put for his Nito video, and that just kind of blew up my channel all of a sudden. So I was like, all right, people like these lore videos, so I'll keep on working on them and making them. And yeah, it's kind of just been a journey since that.
Yeah, well, one of the things in order to pay you an honest compliment, the two things I really like about your take on this, because there are a lot of people who do Dark Souls lore stuff. One is that I like that everything that you present in the videos, I think that you're very upfront about what is for sure and what things are kind of just conjecture, kind of right off the bat, and really transparent about it, which I really like. Which I kind of think allows you to go to, kind of posit some things that are I don't hear from everyone. because you're right up front, like, hey, this just is an idea. You're super honest about that, which I really like. And then 2, I like that you're going back and you're playing through the Kingsfield games and everything, and you use the Kingsfield music and stuff, and it seems like you have the kind of the long view appreciation of the series, which we try to do too.
Yeah.
I love that you guys have also played the Kingsfield games, and I saw that you guys had the Ancient City playthrough. I'm like, yes, these guys know Kingsfield. It's such a great series. That's my childhood, is those games. But thanks on the fact that I put all the info up front for what we know, what's just conjecture, because that's something I really, really try to do in my videos. Because I really like Epic Name Bro, his lore videos and his style, and that's part of what he does, and why I like it is because then I know, like, okay, well, this is just an idea. You can kind of pick it apart and really figure it out. Yeah,
and it's not a deposition. Like you can posit like an idea, and you're not being held to it, or there's no penalty if something new information comes up, because these things are constantly evolving. So just having the information out there, is really useful.
I feel like, especially with right now, I've seen a lot of people take some of the theories that I put out there and then come up with better ones, but a lot of it's kind of inspired by those initial thoughts. And that's what it is. It's all helping everyone build as a community. Like, okay, here's an idea, and then we can take that and figure more things out. And it's just some of the connections that are in my later videos are ones that people figured out based on my older videos and sent to me. I was like, oh my God, I didn't notice this stuff. That's really cool.
Yeah, that comports with our experience too. Like being hooked into this community and being kind of subject to that churn of information as new things come to light. It really does help kind of the best or the most salient interpretations rise to the top, as long as you're upfront about, like, hey, we're just kind of going with our best feeling right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like, when I put up my story video, that was my first, I guess my third Dark Souls 2 lore video, but it was my first really big one. That one I was scared shitless about because there was nothing out there yet. So I was just like, I think I'm right, but I really don't know.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see people kind of confirming it afterwards, but I was really scared putting that one up.
Yeah, and it seems like everyone's been fairly supportive, which is nice, because when it comes to discussing this stuff, especially more on forums, I guess, than YouTube's YouTube comments, some people get very very heated and not understanding about that. So there's definitely the Something Awful forums, which is where Kole and I met as a ground. The Dark Souls 2 thread on that forum is awful.
I can't swing it.
It's a gross place to be.
It so depends on the forum. And every forum is different too that I've gone to and checked out. Like, I really like Game Facts for Dark Souls. I feel like those guys are really friendly.
Yeah, cool. But bizarrely enough, a lot of the good stuff that has been brought to our attention is from the Reddit, from the Dark Souls 2 Reddit thread.
Yeah, I check Reddit. Actually, that's where I'm at the most frequently. I'm on the Reddit constantly.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
And just another side thing, I really enjoy the professionalism and the production of the things that you put out. Just as long as we're paying compliments,
I'll take all the compliments.
That is important to me. I went back and I watched the Chosen Undead as an Asshole video and just laughed my ass off once more. So
good. Yeah, I've been working on a second one for way too long, but I actually have started writing it. It's just a little harder because I kind of wrote myself in a corner with the fact that the next one has to be New Londo now, because that's kind of what I put out there.
Yeah.
And there's not that much to New Londo, so I'm trying to push it past and make it better.
Nice.
So that's kind of where I'm at with that one. But thank you. I've worked in entertainment for a long time now, so I really try to put all the professionalism into my videos.
Yeah. It shows.
Yeah.
Cool.
So what did we do before this, Kole?
Well, before this, we ventured into the wooded Huntsman's Copse to get some Skella-love from some lords and a nightmare horse before dipping back down to, tie up some loose ends in this kind of weirdo episode we're doing.
Oh, I gotta say, the skeleton lord stuff you guys were talking about with the throne had me cracking up. To pay you guys a compliment, I love that discussion you guys had. So, anyways, so Sinner's Rise. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
So we just didn't want to go to Sinner's Rise right after the Bastille because it's kind of tough. That's this kind of straddling episode that's going to transition us into the pit. But you could just go here right from the Lost Bastille. And actually, the first part we're going to talk about, this the very beginning kind of prefix to it, is technically still part of the Lost Bastille, but it's such a integral part to how the Sinner's Rise feels. It belongs here, which is that sniper bridge, that like Metal Gear segment of like walking up the cover beast.
You're going to need to go back and grab a sniper rifle.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I died to them a lot more times than I would like to admit doing the run for the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just I guess my character wasn't spec'd for shield, really, or just the damage kind of piles up.
They can stun lock you really easily if you don't have. Yeah. I think that's more what it is. So when I have a shield, I'm fine, but my shieldless run, I went through this. I had a harder time with it.
Yeah,
and the distance kind of makes it hard to see. Yeah,
I'm so used to rolling now that I'm just used to it. So I've been doing that since Dark Souls 1. So I'm just like, okay, I just kind of ran and rolled past everything.
Yeah.
But at first it got me a little bit. But yeah, that wasn't the hardest one. But I like that they did that. That was a cool idea.
Yeah, it says this is serious business. Like everything else was kind of guarded, but this is explicitly putting up something that is right in your way. Like, and once you figure out what's back there, I can't tell if they're keeping people out or keeping people in. But, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Are they trying to keep people out or in? Mm-hmm. I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah. When you eventually make your way up there to where that bonfire is, that's something like Dark Souls 1 didn't really do, with the bonfire with the hostile enemies right next to it. That's a really strange little bit in this game that happens a couple times in Dark Souls 2.
Yeah.
But essentially, we're just trying to make our way down this tower.
Right.
But there's a kind of a fun Easter egg if you get up to the top of this.
Yeah.
If you haven't gone through Belfry Luna yet.
Yeah, so I actually didn't realize this until somebody wrote in. Matt wrote in via contact saying, on my second playthrough, I skipped Belfry Luna and the Gargoyles and went straight to Sinner's Rise after defeating the Ruined Sentinels. I was surprised to see one of the Belfry Gargoyles flying about in the distance, as I couldn't remember this encounter from my earlier game. So I went into a new game and captured the proof on camera, and he linked into a video, which we can put into the show notes. It just goes to show how important multiple playthroughs are to see everything these awesome games have to offer. Praise the sun. So yeah, you just straight up see like that chapel off in the distance, and these Belfry Gargoyles just going to town on it.
Yeah, I had no idea at first, and it was actually Terramantis and I were talking a lot because we knew that we both got the game a little early, and we had no one else to talk to. And he happened to be recording, and he didn't even notice until he was looking back at his recording that there was a roar, and he didn't even see the Belfry Gargoyle. He just heard the roar, and he shared the video with me, and I was like, I don't remember getting a roar noise. What does that mean? So it took me like playing through another time, like you guys said, like you really got to play multiple times to get the full experience. So I was playing it through a second time that I knew to look out for it. And then I saw the Belfry Gargoyle, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I definitely, the first time I heard the roar but didn't see it, I was kind of, wasn't facing the direction, and I thought it was a dragon. Like, I just, maybe out of the corner of my eye saw a shape flying and heard the roar, and I was like, oh, shit. And that's, honestly, because of hearing that roar, that's what I thought I was going to find down at the bottom of the rise.
A dragon.
The first time, yeah. Like, because I was so integral to like the build up and all the press and everything said how important dragons were to the story. I'm like, oh shit, well that's what they've got chained up at the bottom of this tower, and didn't turn out to be the case.
Not the case at all. Yeah, I love that sense of mystery, especially if you didn't stumble on the Belfry. Like if you just see that, thinking A, it might be an Easter egg, thinking B, this might be something I need to fight in the future, especially with how hidden the Belfry is.
Yeah, I think it's a great game designer choice to do that because it indicates right there that there's something you might have missed because you're going to wonder what that gargoyle is and maybe go back and search a little bit more and search a little deeper. And hopefully have a Ferris Lockstone with you to use while you're doing that.
Yeah, at a time when they're probably very, very rare for you.
Yeah, at the beginning of the game. I know that was actually how I saw it the first time was because I never skip areas, and the first time I finally saw it was on a subsequent playthrough where I just didn't have enough Ferris Lockstones to go into the Belfry. So I just got lucky that I didn't happen to have that Lockstone.
So you head on down here, and there's this elevator kind of guarded by these crossbowmen on your way down, and it is a long elevator.
Yeah.
It kind of goes on forever. And you end up in this kind of flooded basement area with, you've got correctly pointed out in the notes, my least favorite summon sign location in the game. Which is, it's fine. So if you're trying to do Lucatiel's quest and you want her to survive 3 fights, it's fine because you can clear out the way, and then summon her and just have her walk up. But it's just kind of a pain in the ass.
Right.
So those enhanced undead, they're tough.
Yeah.
And, the funny thing, I got so good at dancing on that elevator. Because it got to the point where now I can kill the Lost Sinner really easily, but like the first couple times my Lost Sinner fights were really difficult, especially dodging the way I do. And I don't know if it's easier with a shield, but yeah, there were a lot of times that I just decided I didn't want to kill the enemies, so I was just dancing on the elevator to avoid all the crossbow shots.
And because the music's in your soul, because rhythm is a dancer.
And that too.
Yeah, solid. Get down here, and these enhanced undead, which are really interesting, because they're kind of half undead and half dragon.
Right.
They've got kind of dragon bits to them, and we know these are created by Aldea because of later.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the interesting question is, how did they get down there? That's really what I wonder. And also, why do they have the Bellkeeper set equipment with them, which only these enhanced undead have? Ones you fight later in the game don't have it. Only these ones have the Bellkeeper shield and Bellkeeper, the other Bellkeeper item that they have.
The bow.
The bow, right, yeah.
Which makes, I wonder if the Bellkeepers were taken for experimentation, and then if they somehow escaped and they came back here because the place is meaningful to them in their human form. If they were once Bellkeepers. Yeah. Like, they weren't placed here by Aldea so much, but as when Aldea ascended or did whatever he did, whatever you decide that is, his place is kind of in disrepair, given that they're kind of trolls, walking around willy-nilly once we get there, or ogres, rather. Maybe these guys just got out. I
mean, it's curious because it's the lone knights who are guarding, as you said, the Sinner's Rise. Those guys are, I think, Vendrick soldiers, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they were Vendrick's elite guards that he, equipped really well to fight against the giants, and they got roundly trounced.
Yeah, so those are two connections to Vendrick and Aldea in this area.
Yeah. Well, and it's next to the Bastille, which is where Vendrick is sticking his undead.
Right.
In general, so there's enough kind of to suggest that regardless of who the Lost Sinner ends up being, that Vendrick is probably responsible. Vendrick or Aldea are probably responsible for putting her there,
right, and
locking her out. Even though she is, as we'll get to, punishing herself,
right.
Maybe through similar to kind of like a Havel situation, like maybe if she was a character with significance, hey, lock me up,
So did you guys find the secret passage in there your first time through?
No, I've only found it with the help of the strategy guide later.
Yeah, I had that wasn't the type of wall I usually check for secret walls in. So yeah, that was one that people had to tell me about, and I didn't believe them at first. I was like, no, there's not a secret passage there. My Kingsfield sensibility should have had me locked into that.
It is, yeah. Well, because it's almost like the ancient city, the fort there that has the exterior where you go on the outside of the fortress and find the treasure there. Yeah, it's kind of like that. The waterway. Yeah, I didn't find it the first time either.
Yeah,
it wasn't until the second time.
Yeah, and the item you get out there is the what is that? The Northern Ritual Band, which is explicitly said to have been restored through Aldea's arcane and profane arts. Like what kind of horrible ritual was done to get this thing back to where it was. And that kind of is led into, like, a lot of the stuff that you find here is hinted to have come from Lordran. Sublime Bone Dust, and then the stuff that you get after you fight the Sinner, like all of this has connection to prior kingdoms, right?
Yeah. I think you got an Elizabeth mushroom after the Lost Sinner, right?
Yeah, you get an Elizabeth mushroom, and that's also where you get the fragrant branch of yore, which I'm becoming more and more convinced actually has a relation to the Bed of Chaos.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that theory.
And they explicitly, the explicitly branch, the plant-like nature of the bed, combined with the fact that this is kind of the opposite of the curse a little bit. It unpetrifies people and things. It's a flimsy connection, I know, but that is kind of the assumption I'm operating under right now. That and its noxious effects make it seem like it's from something that is hostile to humans. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, wait, the fragrant brush of yore, but it kind of cures humans of petrified, so...
yeah, but also its description says that it gives headaches and causes nausea and coughing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's a minor thing and probably of very little consequence, but it is something I put in to make it tidy that all this stuff has links.
And it's part of that whole debate of if Drangleic is Lordran in the past. It's evidence for that.
And to be fair, you find it right here, which are connections to the Bed of Chaos here. In this area. So it makes sense. I'm not totally convinced, but it's not the craziest thing you've ever said on the show.
Cool compliment, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're making our way through this flooded area, which is, it's tough. You're fighting the enhanced undead, and we're running into these, the exploding undead, the ruptured undead,
which are placed specifically to impede your progress if you're trying to run through this at the at those staircases there.
Yep, and they're hiding under the water, which is tricky.
There's one like right next to the door you need to unlock, so there's no way you can just run through unless I found a way though. If you run up the side, they'll follow you there, and then you jump off, then you can run through. Yeah,
and the door opens quicker than you would think, like quicker than other doors that do that. So you actually can, like if you're speed running, you can avoid fighting those guys, but you do have to run up the side to distract them.
Right.
Which I think this is one of the longer boss runs in Dark Souls 2, which doesn't have a lot of real long boss runs. So I ended up having to kind of get my speed run strats down because the Lost Center took me several tries the first time through. For sure. And who else was jailed down here? Like, that's an interesting idea, because there's the actual Sinner's Rise structure where the Lost Sinner is, but there's also several other cell structures at the bottom of this tower.
Even within Sinner's Rise, there's a couple other cells, which are where those pyromancers come out of.
Yeah.
Like, those are cells that they're coming out of.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. It's not just literally just a one person kind of oubliette. Yeah. It is
I mean, if you assume that the Lost Sinner had followers, like if she really was channeling who we think she's channeling, then anybody or like her entourage, as kind of supported by the fact that they do pyromancy. Yeah, got Turtle,
Jeremy
Gooch.
Piven.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've actually never seen that show. I just know it as a punchline in comedy podcasts I listen to.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love this show.
Is it good? Like, it ran for a long time. Like, I don't know anything about it other than just people making turtle jokes.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen it. I kind of want to watch it again now that I live in Los Angeles, because I'll actually know all the locations and inside jokes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I thought it was a great show for the first few seasons, at least. Then it kind of had run its course.
I've seen episodes of it. What it seems to me, I think that there are probably two kinds of people who appreciate it. Awful people who take it at face value and think, "Man, this is awesome," and then people who recognize that it's satire. Would be my way to go. Like, oh, this is a way to live versus, haha, look at how these guys are living.
Yeah, so that definitely could be like that Silicon Valley show.
I haven't watched that. Is that good?
It's pretty good.
TV shows.
It's funny. Good times there. But so there were other people who were in prison, I guess, is the main point. So that's kind of interesting. And the idea of her having followers is definitely seems on the nose, possibly. But if you got the key from Vorgel, old Vorgy, you can kind of go through the easy way, because you don't actually have to run down there to the door, and can just make your way to this path that leads up to the Rise proper.
Yeah.
I think that's at least to me, that's one of the connections that I use for the Lost Sinner, who we'll talk about a little later when we actually get to her. But yeah, that key opens up a lot of things. It opens up for the Lost Sinner herself. That's how you can light the torches to make that boss fight a little bit easier, I suppose. I think it makes it easier for if you're a sorcery, like a caster build, or if you use arrows. Yeah. For melee build, it's probably not going to do that much, but it helps you target her so she doesn't just disappear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that key ends up coming really in handy for that type of aspect.
That might win the 2014 Bonfireside Chat Key of the Year award. Like, what other keys, Cole, are in the running? Because that is a useful key.
The Forgotten Key gets you a lot of good stuff.
Real good.
Yeah, Forgotten Keys. I think we're going to have to put this one to a poll.
The Undead Castaway Key, because it gets you to a bonfire.
Yeah. Fang Key, get you to artifacts. Mm-hmm. There's so many good keys in this game. Gosh. It's like a straight up key party.
The Bonfireside Chat keys.
The
trophy
key keys
where you have a giant key as the shape of the trophy.
Yeah.
Which key's going to win the key this year?
7 keys in Dark Souls 2. Number 6 will blow your mind.
We kept trying to lock it away so people wouldn't steal it, but
like a YouTube video, top 10 keys in Dark Souls 2.
Number 1.
Top 8 directions on a D-pad. So you make your way, and this view is awesome.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. like just heading up to this. It's just so imposing and like it gives a sense of power. Like this is the first, I think, for a lot of people, the first of the 4 major heavies that you're going to fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For most people, and it really gives that, it conveys that message.
I love the symmetry of it. Like as you're running down that long, kind of pathway raised out of the water with the rocks kind of sticking out at the same angle coming out of it. Like it really does put that imposing atmosphere around it. Like you don't see that kind of symmetry a lot in these games, and when it shows up, it's always in a place of authority like this.
Yeah, because it shows like a structure that someone actually had to put time and think about it. Whoever was behind making the structure.
Yeah.
Well, it's also not decrepit. Like if you think of a prison or somewhere you're going to put somebody to punish them necessarily, or like a punitive action, it wouldn't necessarily be this kind of beautiful and considered. Like there's an element of it that is kind of almost honorific, in addition to being damning or being an actual like a prison.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to me it's cool because you also have the moonlight shining in, which makes it really pretty.
Yeah,
with
this
the
area is
moonlight
beautiful.
coming in. Yeah, it's definitely, when I was capturing footage for my lore video on the Lost Sinner, it's like this was one where I was like, yes, it's so pretty, yes.
So I'm unclear as to the topology of this area. So I thought that it was just a tower that was on the outside of the the rise, the Bastille, or the rise proper was like a separate structure. But like I get the sense that you're in kind of like you're in a cave. It's like an outcropping. Where is that light coming from? Because when you look up, you don't see any of the sky.
Well, if you look to the right, you can see where the sky is. So,
okay.
yeah. If you look over to the right, you can see where the top of the cave is, and yeah, you can actually see up to the sky.
Okay. Yeah.
If I'm remembering correctly,
I think so. That makes a sense to me. But I remember craning to look up because I wanted to get a still of it, honestly, to use as a background on my PC because I'm a huge nerd. But yeah, that makes
my
makes
iPad
sense.
background is Firelink Shrine, so right there with you.
Every time coming home to the old iPad. Yeah. And so we mentioned we have that key and you can light the torches. We talked about that a little bit. I did not, the first time I saw that and opened up those doors, I did not realize I could light them.
Right.
Because you don't get a light to prompt unless you have the torch. And I also thought it was blood, like rather than oil. So I thought this was just blood flowing into this, which again was great as far as just like building up my imagination.
Yeah, I kind of prefer that. That sounds way cooler to me. I
Yeah,
prefer
just
blood.
like just two tubes feeding blood into this like chamber I'm going to go into.
Well, it sounds like you're about to when you think of it that way, it sounds like you're about to encounter something from 3-2.
Yeah.
Right? Like the Queen's Heart or whatever,
Yeah. At the center. So that would be, pretty amazing. And I end up liking this boss. I'm saying a lot of things like, oh, I thought this really cool thing was going to happen. It didn't. I like this boss a lot, but yeah.
Well, I think that's that speaks to something. Like the grandiosity of this run up makes you think that you're coming after something that is going to be bigger than what it is. I love this boss fight too, but after all this setup and after everything that you've been through, kind of a humble one-on-one duel isn't what you're expecting.
I think, I don't know, the whole torch thing you were talking about, I feel like that's just one of those things that they designed before they made the change, the lighting change. Like everything involving torches to me, like things like this, you would never really figure that out for the most part, because why would you have a reason to use a torch here? But yeah, I agree with you guys about the Lost Sinner fight, though. It's one of my favorite fights in the game.
Yeah, it's great, and not least of which, just that sense of kind of pomp to it. The intro with her is really chilling and wonderful. Where you come in and we get to see the chaos bug crawl into her eye, this was probably the first, because I think I fought this before I fought Ornstein. I think this was the first explicit Dark Souls 1 thing that I saw. Like, that is literally from Dark Souls 1.
Yeah.
The chaos bug.
Yeah, actually, I my first time playing through, I didn't notice it. I think I turned away and turned back because I was like looking down to do something. And then I had met Vadi Vidya a couple days later at an event in San Francisco, and he was telling me, like, we were talking about the Lost Sinner boss fight. He's like, dude, and the fact that you see the chaos bug, and I was like, what? There was a chaos bug? What are you talking about? Yeah, I totally missed the boat on that.
Real blink and you miss a detail.
I'm just sitting here trying to imagine Vati saying, dude.
Yeah.
Dude. Okay, you probably didn't say dude. That's me putting my own lingo into his mouth.
Yeah, I love everything about the aesthetics and the lore of this. Like, just the fact that you see the mask, you think, oh shit, and then it just reveals that, oh, she's fighting me. Well, hey, it's a she, but she's fighting me literally with one hand tied behind her back. Well, not literally, figuratively. She's handcuffed. So,
it's like Jaime Lannister fights in Game of Thrones. Someone will get that reference. So, yeah, I think, to me, actually, in the trailer of the game, when the trailer came out that had the various bosses that they were showing, that Curse trailer, this was the boss that I thought looked the most exciting, and it didn't let me down.
It's mechanically what's really interesting about it. So we have that element of lock-on range that she controls. She's also all really about, like, dead angles and weird unpredictability and rhythms. You know, like, a lot of the duel fights in this game kind of struck me a little bit as kind of riffs on Artorias, like odd, you know, kind of takes on that, since that's the biggest duel fight that you end up having in Dark Souls 1. And this one, you know, if Artorias was more, because like the Lost Sinner will come at you from the side, you know, or will charge you with very little wind up, you know, from distances you don't expect. Like, the fight is very unpredictable as a duel. And then lots of verticality, lots of jumping and repositioning herself.
She also has a lot of, she's really quick to recover. Really quick to recover. Yeah. So I was using a larger sword to fight her, and I'd do one swing, and she'd already dodged away.
Yeah. Just very, very, very fast and very just hard to kind of get a pattern down. You know, at least, and once you can get it, like, it is, you know, this fight is not super hard for me now, but initially I was just like, man, I don't know what's going to happen next at any point during this duel.
Yeah.
You know. And
like the varied nature of her tactics kind of covers up the fact that she really only has like 3 moves, I think. She just uses them and her own position in very odd and unexpected ways. So it becomes more about the rhythm than from, you know, any of the, you know, attacks by themselves being dangerous, right?
Yeah, it's also the fact that there's one attack that she has where sometimes it's a 3 attack combo and sometimes she'll do 4. Yeah. So it makes it a little harder to predict because you kind of have to watch and be like, all right, is she going to do the 4 this time or not?
She also, if you're not using the, if you're not, you know, trying to keep Lucatiel alive with the red eye ring, or the red, it's not red eye, the aggro healing ring, she will change opponents seemingly at random. So if you summon a phantom for this and she is engaged with one, she will break off and start fighting, you know, fighting another opponent, you know, fairly quickly and without much order to it. Which it can be really hard if you're, you know, when I played through as a caster, I did some, you know, got Sunbroed for a little while here, and would be standing back, just tossing hexes, and she would just disengage and just tackle me, you know, out of nowhere, and I was totally not expecting it. So very, very cool AI. Like, I really like the AI on the Lost Sinner fight.
Yeah, what you're talking about with Lucatiel, I didn't know about the ring when I first was trying to keep Lucatiel alive, and it was a really hard boss fight to keep Lucatiel alive because of her switching tactics and the fact that Lucatiel, I think they actually in a recent patch made her more powerful, but she was so bad. It was just so hard keeping her alive that I would struggle to try and hurt the Lost Sinner and kill her as quickly as possible, and then all of a sudden the Lost Sinner would attack me when I wasn't expecting it, and now all of a sudden I'm in trouble. So, yeah, that made it really hard.
Yeah. Super tricky. But yeah, so eventually, you know, you're able to bring it on. We're going to talk about the New Game Plus fight in our New Game Plus episode because that adds additional wrinkle to it. But just the kind of the fallout of the, you know, regular New Game version, we can talk about, you know. So eventually you're able to defeat her, you know, mostly just kind of through practice and getting that stuff down. And she does some interesting things as far as items. So her soul, her regular soul, can drop or can be turned into the Lost Sinner sword, which the guy who does the weapon showcases, Mr. I Won't Forget, thinks that like it scales with your sin, but also thinks that it does more damage to people the more they have sinned, which is interesting. Like, he was getting very unpredictable damage values. And that was really cool. Yeah. It's not proven. Like, people haven't, you know, opened up the case and kind of expected the numbers just yet. But it sounded like that was the case, which is a really cool idea. Yeah. And it also hurts you as you use it.
Yeah. I like the idea of them kind of underlining or working the notion of penitence into the mechanics. That seems like a really ambitious and nuanced thing to attempt.
Yeah, like having sin be a stronger kind of theme. To it.
Yeah. I would like that if it turned out that Mr. I Won't Forget is correct about the Lost Sinner sword. That'd be a really cool extra nuance to the sword and the way it works, especially if you're maybe if you're fighting in the Blood Brother Covenant. It would be extra good if you're doing duels. But yeah, that's a cool idea, and I like her entire set. Actually, I think it's all some fun, like some good ideas in the way that it works and why it gives you the boost it gives you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's talk about her a little bit. In general, who we think she might be and what her connections are. Yeah, and in general to that gear.
First, some basic facts about her. Her entire cell is covered with crazy writing. Yeah, so it's like John Nash's shed, a little bit. And also, she's blind, and that's why she blows out the torches and the candles and stuff. Is because her mask, the description of that. Says, there are spikes on the inside to blind and torture the person who's wearing it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I was so hoping that I was staring at those carvings on the ground, like just trying to see if there's just one that had something, and there's nothing.
Just
nothing.
One of them is dick butt, like way up in a corner.
It's just like, oh, there's a dick butt. What does this mean? Someone in From Software is part of Reddit.
When there's no Heineken can in the
that Heineken can.
They come later. In the episode, I haven't been able to figure out what any of that stuff is. Mm-hmm. Obviously meaningful to her. She has the her cuffs on, which boost pyromancy. If you're using them, which is interesting, because in New Game Plus, as we mentioned, we're going to talk about that a little bit more in a future episode, but it's kind of integral to talking about her. She drops the old witch's soul.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which, there's a lot of lore with... I don't know. There's a lot of connections to me that I made from the outside with her, and my theory is, and I present this in my video, that she was the princess of Belfry Luna, which I know a lot of people disagree with, so... I don't know. I feel like the fact that you have the Enhanced Undead dropping the Bellkeeper set, you have the fact that... I think the Belfry Gargoyles showing themselves is very much a gameplay mechanic to say, hey, you missed this boss. But it also does present an interesting connection between Sinner's Rise and the Belfry area.
Yeah.
And, I think there were some other connections that I had, like the Vorgel the Sinner, the fact that you get the key from another Sinner who just happens to be in Belfry Luna.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's all more outside connections than direct connections, but I think it's a possibility.
Yeah. I like that. Most of the talk is about her being a reincarnation or possessing the soul, literally in New Game Plus, or the drive of the Chaos Witch of Izalith, but figuring out who she was before she got consumed by that notion. That I think is the best explanation I've heard so far.
Yeah, and I prefer thinking about that stuff because, that's more interesting to me than just the idea of, it was reincarnated and that's the whole story behind it. I think this is a more interesting idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're both interesting because they're both, one kind of plays into the grander question of why these Lord Souls are floating around Drangleic. And having their kind of influence, which is important to the macro, but the micro is also really interesting. And the idea of her being the princess also ties into that idea of her maybe kind of calling in this favor to inter herself in this way. So, what I was mentioning about how she's kind of got this, it's almost like a place of honor that she's in, as opposed to just a dank pit.
Yeah.
Could be if she was the princess, hey, we are royalty. I need to punish myself. And he's like, okay, well, I will construct this for you.
Yeah, it's just a giant room that she's in by herself, as opposed to, like you said, just a small pit somewhere in a cave. And it's definitely built up. But the two ideas don't contradict each other because with her possibly. To me, the way that it works with the rebirth of souls, I feel like at some point these characters get those souls, just like. Really, Nito and Gwyn and all them, they weren't born with those Lord Souls. They eventually acquired the souls.
Yeah.
Which in turn they gave them more power and made them become who they were.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's part of what is happening with these bosses is that they didn't start with it, but at some point they end up acquiring the fragments, reborn soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that plays into, the idea of lineage and succession, and then just kind of everything repeating itself. This grand cycle of these, of these powerful, kind of primordial or primeval forces just continuing to make their way through the world, repeating the same cycles, right? Yeah. And just kind of the people who happen to be unlucky enough to encounter them.
And far be it from to make 2 Metal Gear references in one episode, but like it gets into kind of almost like a genetic idea, like who knows if any of these people who found these things, what bits of free will they had, or what was just the influence of the soul that they had hanging around with them. Like this could have been a completely different person, and then was driven to do these things. Yeah. Just because they happened to trip over a glowing rock. One day,
a glowing rock, or just these ideas. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. But yeah, that's a lot of what I feel like it is with these souls. And yeah, I mean, who knows what the influence really was of these souls, but I feel like it did influence their personality after they acquired the souls.
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as one thing we get from Shalquire and talking to her, and this is without New Game Plus or anything, it's just that you get that connection to the Witch of Izalith outside, and that adds on to the whole chaos bug. That she tried to light the first flame.
Yeah. In fact, that is the intro dialogue for this episode. I've already edited it.
All right.
Yeah. And that is and that is seen as the greatest sin of all in this kingdom, or in this, ideology, which is, to attempt to break nature like that, which feels a little bit like, oh yeah, we're in the Age of Dark now. Like this is what happens when the flame goes away.
Yeah, it's very much a Vendrick's kingdom idea, because Vendrick was trying not to light the first flame, almost possibly trying to break the curse of the cycles. So, yeah, it plays into that possible idea.
Yeah, taking things back into the direction of dragons as opposed to the gods, or the forces of flame. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that does raise the question then of, well, when exactly was it the lost sinner sinned, and was it then, as you were throwing at, possibly, was it Vendrick who locked her up? Was it maybe she was the princess and chose to lock herself up and maybe had a change of heart? It's really raises that question.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I'm really excited. We have it as a note at the end of the episode, but like one of the things that if we think of this in terms of Dark Souls 1, where the Artorias of the Abyss DLC answered a lot of questions, like I am really looking forward to the DLC and how it's going to reflect on some of these questions that we have.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty happy with the state of conjecture right now on Dark Souls 2 lore, but the having some kind of extra toys in the toy box, new Lego bricks to try to make things, is going to be very interesting.
Frequent contributor and guest Vivian, when we posted the announcement about the DLC, or reposted it on the Facebook, said that that expansion really tied the lore together, which I'm really hoping it's going to do.
Oh wait, how much of it has he played?
Not much. Like just not the new one. He just meant comparing it to Artorias of the Abyss.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Artorias of the Abyss absolutely did. Yeah. Because I was gonna say I played some of the new DLC, which we'll talk about later. But there wasn't, of my 30 minutes with it, I didn't get too much lore stuff yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. That doesn't mean it's not there.
Yes. So after you beat her, you go through this kind of hallway. You get your fragrant branch of Yore, which opens up some spokes.
Yeah.
As we mentioned, the Elizabeth mushroom, which you mentioned.
I love that item description so much.
It's really funny. That is one of the better jokes. I keep saying it, but Dark Souls 2 is funny in a way that Dark Souls 1 is not, and that is a good joke.
Did you guys talk about that one in a previous episode, the Elizabeth mushrooms?
I think this is the first one we've encountered, though, right?
I thought we mentioned it. I thought I had mentioned it when we first ran into Lloyd's talismans for some reason.
Okay.
But the description says, Elizabeth was a saint who had the various medicines. She was renowned for her beauty. So her great beauty. I don't know the exact wording of it.
Yeah, I was gonna make a video about that, and then Abyss Gravelord beat me to it. I was like, all right, he won. He was the first one to post it.
I love that. I love the idea of like just history, getting lost. And we're and corruption of history and stuff, which we're going to deal with in a little bit, at least in one instance coming up. But the mechanically, getting this fragrant branch of Yore opens up, the shaded ruins, or the shaded woods, which is useful from this point on if you'd like to go there.
Or you can run it back to Strayed and free him, but it's up to you. Really, there are going to be more of these in the future, but right now it is a limited resource.
For me, this was before I'd found where you guys just talked about last week, the undead cops, just because of the fact that you have to walk back, and I got so used to teleporting. So I hadn't even found the undead cops, and it was actually Vadi who had to tell me how to get there. But so I just started going the other way because I was like, all right, do I use my Fragrant Branch of Yore to open up a new path, or do I use it for this character I want to talk to? And I like that they give you that option where you really do have to choose, at least your first playthrough. I mean, now I always end up with extra Fragrant Branches of Yore, but my first playthrough was really that thought of like, oh, well, what do I do with this? I got to make this choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are more of them than you need, but not that many more. So it's still an important resource. And you light your primordial bonfire
in a big empty cube.
Yeah, which we'll see again and again.
Yep.
Several big empty cubes after big bosses.
Do you guys have any theories on the primal bonfire?
We haven't really talked about it. I don't think I have anything really for it.
No.
It's interesting, but I don't know what the idea is for it, because it's like it's not tied in mechanically. Like there's the soul limit to open the Shrine of Winter, or you have to defeat the four big bosses, but it doesn't have anything to do with the primal bonfire.
No,
it's not mechanically tied in, so I'm not sure what that is. Do you have any ideas on it, Dave?
No, that's why I was wondering. Other than, all right, well, you can't warp with it. Other than it takes you straight back to Majula. I don't know. That's something I've been wondering for a while.
So there are two things it ties to. There are the great bonfires in Dark Souls 1. And those are kind of at the end of where where you fight the lords, right? And if you consider that the lords kind of match up to the four old ones that you fight, that is an indirect parallel between the two of them, and also the fact that these are linked also to the map in the mansion at Majula. So there must have been something important about them that Aldia and Vendrick wanted to keep track of.
Well, but the thing is, I thought about that too, but there are bonfires that are linked to the map in Majula that are not these as well.
Yeah,
it's not just that. Yeah, there are lots of bonfires that are linked to the Majula map.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all progress based for the Majula map, really.
Yeah.
Like a percentage type of thing, almost.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. But let's stop rising and head on and explore the garbage pit in our home village.
This week's episode of Bonfireside Chat is brought to you by LatchkeyKingdom.com, which is a webcomic by Nick Daniel.
When you said that, I thought you were saying it was brought to us by the Kingdom, Latchkey Kingdom, but it's actually the comic Latchkey Kingdom.
Yeah.
We have no affiliation with the actual kingdom. We're not citizens of such.
Yes.
Instead, we're citizens of the United States. Mm-hmm. We like freedom, and we like Nick Daniel's Latchkey Kingdom.
Yeah. It is a comic about Willa Dragonfly and her adventures, which are inspired by video games and have little flavors that, but it is not a video game webcomic. It is, in fact, about whimsy and wonder and adventure.
Yes, because when you hear video game webcomic, if you're anything like me, you think it will not be very good. And instead, this is very charming. The biggest touch point for me, I keep mentioning, is Bone, that wonderful kind of all ages comic, if you're familiar with that. And we recommend starting at the beginning because the first arc has all kinds of little cute rat monsters. And this episode also features talk about cute rat monsters.
Yeah.
Very few of the rats in Latchkey Kingdom have mohawks, but don't hold that against them.
Few if any.
Yeah. Yes, few if any. In addition, though, he's responsible for our new cover art for the podcast.
Which,
notice that?
Like, we received it. Like, he sent us the draft of it. Just kind of like, hey, check this out. Here's this nice thing. And like, it made my 2 weeks. Like, it was a fortnightly blessing that he put upon us.
It's awesome, and I was really happy that he's letting us use it. For that, and it just looks so good. And the original one was in black and white, and then there's a color version, which you'll see is the one you guys see, and the colors just pop. It just looks really good. It's gorgeous. So
check out.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, thank you so much. Mm-hmm. And if you want to thank Nick for the new cover art, which might be a thing you want to do, check out LatchkeyKingdom.com. It is a great webcomic.
Indeed. This was the first time trying to jump down to that ledge was the first time I realized the difference in fall damage in Dark Souls 2. Because I bet you I can get to that. And then immediately died. Like, oh, well, shit.
Yeah.
Need some kind of item or something.
Can you quantify that just for people who aren't familiar?
Oh, we have this huge pit in the middle of Majula, and you can see this ledge. And in Dark Souls 1, I'm sure you could make that drop.
Yeah.
from the lip of the pit, because fall damage in Dark Souls 1 is percentage based as opposed to a straight damage value like it is in Dark Souls 2. So in Dark Souls 2, you have to have either a ring that reduces your fall damage or another item, or you have to have enough HP to tank it. And you cannot have that straight out the gate.
No.
And the ring that you need is very expensive.
Yeah.
It's one of the most expensive items you can buy in the games at 13,000 souls.
Yeah.
So
Or you can just come to this later, because you find an NPC who will build ladders, and he will build one explicitly to kill you if you cheap out. So
yeah.
I didn't end up going here until after I found that NPC.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I tried dropping in one time like you, and I was just like, all right, whatever, I'll drop in, and then I died. I was like, I'm not going to come back here for a while.
I could tell I didn't want to come back here because it had Blighttown stink all over it. Like anytime I see wooden platforms like that, it's like, oh, this is the Blighttown.
But it's just so tempting as somebody who wants to explore as much as you can. Like, you see those platforms, like, yes, this is like 2-2. Give it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to explore everything when I first started the game, so I was like, all right, I'm going to note that and explore it later.
Yeah,
when I have more health, and maybe I can survive a drop.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely came back a bit later and took it. Regardless of how you get down, you kind of have this series of drops, or just a giant ladder that takes you down, depending on how much money you want to spend and where you're at in the game. You can kind of get to pick up items on your way down. Eventually, we are trying to make our way down to this Grave of the Saints, but there is some other stuff to see on the way.
Yeah. There's a good.
Oh no, you go ahead.
There's a little side way you can get to that's locked, but it actually has some of the best sorceries and miracles in the game, attack wise, anyway, and also some pretty good catalysts and such.
Yeah, it also has a good chime as well, I believe. Actually, the Witch Tree Bellvine, I think, is the one that it has. But yeah, it's I was just going to mention that. That's all I was going to throw out there. But I really like all this dropping. I like any vertical level design. I think it's really fun. Like, actually, the catacombs in Dark Souls 1 was one of my favorite areas.
Yeah.
Just because of that verticality and the way that you can find so many ways to skip areas and get through places. So when I first looked down and started dropping, I was like, yes, I like this feeling.
It's weird. This spoke is probably the most vertical.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. It's like going straight down for so much of it. But eventually we make our way to the Grave of the Saints on our way here, which is a really interesting area. It is another one of the kind of Covenant zones, but there's a little bit more story to it as opposed to being a purely Covenant zone, like the Blue Cathedral or something like that. And it is home of the Rat King Covenant, or the Rat Bros, which is one of the most interesting kind of like fresh takes on a Covenant that they've added for Dark Souls 2. I really love this Covenant. It's probably my second favorite in the game after the Abyss, because I'm always going to be dark diving.
Rat Bros for life.
Yo, whoop whoop. Yeah, no, it's No, this is Cat Bros 2.0, and I love what they did with it.
It's like a better version of Cat Bros. I feel like the bell tower is like Cat Bros is more like the bell tower, where it's just like chaos. This feels unique to me, since it's more about like traps and stuff, which is nothing that you really do in the first one. Yeah,
I love the idea of traps. But before I talk about that, I want to mention this is something I only just noticed as I was capturing footage for my Rothamore video, which was like a week ago. So really recently. There, if you look at the entrance to the Grave of Saints, where you're at Harvel's resting place, there's a giant rat mouth, and that's what you walk into.
Yeah,
I only just noticed that.
It's really rough hewn too. Like it doesn't look like it was made by a craftsman.
Yeah, it was made by rats.
Yeah,
it was made by rats.
Fighting away.
It was made by ratsmen. Good.
Yep.
Yeah, ratsmen.
from Portal 2, or Portal 1 is when Ratman comes from. The giant, that's really imposing. And then once you get in and you start, has anyone not gotten Rat Bro almost as soon as you come in for the first time? Like that.
My first time playing. Because I had to play offline because that was before everything was connected. Yeah. I had no idea. I just went through the Covenant. I couldn't play online. So I mean, not went through the Covenant. Went through the area. I just had no clue.
Wow, so you went through this whole area and then you got to a non-functional Covenant at the end.
Yeah. I mean, but that was every Covenant in the game because I just couldn't go online.
Yeah.
So, I didn't... When I got invaded, eventually I was like, oh. Oh, I didn't know about this.
It's so disorienting, too, because it's not you getting invaded. It's just kind of like being summoned into somebody else's world. It's like, what did I do?
You also have an interesting NPC, Red Phantom here, which is Roy the Explorer.
Yeah. I've never encountered him.
Well, the thing is, you can't encounter him unless you're playing offline.
Yeah.
He only comes if you're playing offline, which is when you can't get invaded by or be summoned as a Gray Phantom. And I find that to be an interesting dynamic with this character because he's wearing that armor set from Jugo, the one that's either invisible or visible, and he has the invisible one on, which says that you can only see the armor if you aren't a coward, and if you are a coward, then you can't see the armor.
Oh.
So I feel like this is almost From Software implying that by playing offline you're a coward. Because you
I think that's exactly what it is.
So I like that. I think it's a fun little connection there with him.
Yeah.
I was wondering how they quantified cowardice, but that's actually very neat.
Yeah, that's a coward.
Yeah, so that was my take on it.
Yeah, for sure. He's super useful if you are trying to farm all stones for the Covenant of Champions. He respawns. He's the only Red Phantom in the game that respawns. So you can just kind of keep bonfire asceticing and resting, and fight him 50 times and get all the all stones you need to get your super ring. If you are so inclined to do that.
My Marvel Saint resting spot's at like plus 20 right now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, because I love that when you suck somebody in, it's irregardless of your bonfire intensity. So you might as well crank that thing up to make your rat minions,
yeah.
mean it. Yeah,
yeah. There's so many different things that you can do, and I think this Covenant, like you, I was like, wow, it's such a great take on a Covenant. The idea of being able to set traps and. That idea, and I think that this area is the best one for rat brewing because the other one it's a little too overpowered.
Yeah,
I agree.
This one's not because it's just rats. So I really like this one in this area.
The layout's really nice too.
Yeah.
It's really simple. I enjoy that, and the actual traps that you get are really fun too. Because this was, it wasn't the first time, but it's another instance of running into up until this point uses for Pharos' lockstones. We're just like, I'm going to get a treasure. I might as well use this. But here, I think is one of the first areas you can run into where there are tons of them. And it's like, this is just going to spray some water on the ground. Great. These things are not always to my advantage to use, but they are to your advantage. They're just tricky. And you have to figure out how to use them.
Yeah, and something that I didn't realize until later on, too, is that even that first area, that big circular area, there's water all over the ground.
Yeah.
So if you're a Faith build, that's a great place to just be like, all right, I'm going to stand back, throw some great lightning spears, it'll all be good.
Yeah.
By the power of the elements. This is where that Heineken thing is in the texture as well, which I didn't notice until it was pointed out in a Vadi video. But yeah, which is a weird little And then also he pointed out, and I haven't tried this yet, but it's really interesting, is that if you do get summoned, you don't have to kill your summoner. You just have to make it to the boss fog.
Right.
And if you make it to the boss fog, that counts as a victory as well, which makes it kind of an interesting, if you had kind of agreed upon rules, like, hey, we're not going to duel. I'm just going to try to get to this place and you're going to try to stop me. That's another kind of gameplay that you could have, which is really interesting.
I got summoned in one of my Let's Plays to do that type of gameplay, and I didn't know. Because I've never had anyone reach the fog before, or I've never reached it. And they were very clearly trying to use the traps to kill me and see if I would make it or not. And I just didn't realize that, so I kept on going for them and then didn't make it to the end. And other people had to tell me, like, oh, actually, you can get through the fog. Because I just saw the fog and thought it was a block off.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, I can't go through there. It's a gate. It's done.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times when you see a Phantom in any Souls, that's kind of what we've been trained to know when NPC or when PvP happens, fog gates you can't go through.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, it's just I'm glad that, like, the difference between Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2, there are pluses and minuses, but one of the things I think is really, really interesting and a qualified win is them playing with the idea of covenants and really kind of pushing that idea, doing interesting things with that.
Tell me if I'm crazy. I have more fun in rat broing being the person who is summoned into a world than being the person who summons somebody in. Just because I'm never sure how far that person is upgraded. The
different every time.
The Doors of Pharos, it's different every time. And so, rather than kind of knowing exactly the layout, it's nice to have that goal and to have that drive. And that asymmetry, asymmetrical multiplayer is always going to be the most entertaining for me.
Well, I think it's a cool challenge when you get someone as a Gray Phantom. It's like, can I beat this guy's area that he set up?
Yeah.
Can I beat him? And I like that. And also, as a Gray Phantom, you're not really punished either. When you lose, you just go back. You don't lose your souls. You don't die. So it's not like this horrible, oh no, I lost everything. It doesn't. it's not that big of a deal. And some people I know hate the the Rat Bros, because they think it's just a covenant of dicks. But I love being a dick.
Yeah, it's fun.
But I think it's fun to be a dick, but B, I don't even mind being Gray Phantom because I don't lose anything. And then when I win, it's a challenge. It's a challenge to beat their land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the way to do kind of trolling, is make the penalty for it so make it null.
Yeah.
Right.
And just make it so that this person being a dick only brings a little bit of like chaos and whimsy into your world, as opposed to being disrespectful of your time.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite things to do in the Grave of Saints specifically is I like to lower the bridge in the bottom, but not the one at the top. Because a lot of people will think they see that lower bridge and they're like, all right, I can just run through and get to the top. And then they run through and realize it's blocked off, and I've just basically set up a blocked off area to fight them.
Full of rats.
And just with me after I let them run into it, and then I'll just wait until they realize it's a trap.
And then you just catch them on the way out.
Yeah. So, I like doing that. The fact that you can play with those elements in the Rat Bro Covenant, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. And definitely like the incentives for the Rat Bro Covenant set up the way you're supposed to play. Like, because the ultimate reward is the Slumbering Dragon Crest ring, like you can really just kind of like, where am I? Come find me, kind of thing.
And the fact that you get Pharaoh's Lockstones for your victories, so you can make your fun house more fun. As you succeed.
Yeah, you're upgrading it. Yeah.
I think it's my favorite PvP covenant by far in this game. Like, it is probably the most fun I've had fighting people in the game.
Yeah, I think the only thing I really dislike about what you get for the covenants and the rewards is the fact that this is the one that I ended up playing the most, and it has the lowest tiers for the most part, other than the Dragon Covenant. It's very low tiers for how many kills you have to get all the rewards. Yeah. And I was like, oh wow, I already finished the Rat Bro Covenant, but I want to play more. I like this one. I like the Bellkeepers a lot because that one's so quick to get summoned into it. I think the problem for me with the Rat Bros is sometimes you're waiting for like 10 to 15 minutes for someone to get summoned into your world. But like the Bellkeepers, a lot of people dislike it, but I just like the fact that it's constant. You're constantly playing PvP. But I think that this is definitely the biggest change for the Souls game for the PvP. It's the fact that they added traps. That's just a great new element, great new design.
And it's interesting too because it plays into the PvE kind of aspect of this level or this area. When you look at why those traps are here, it's not just so you can have fun; it's actually to protect this covenant, this Rat King, from human invaders. And there's actually some kind of surprising kind of story to that, and a weird little bit of pathos to the Rat King, which you wouldn't expect, given that he is a Rat King.
Yeah, there actually is a good bit of lore there, and I think we can talk about the Rat King, right? Because that's still Grave of Saints specifically.
Yeah, for sure.
So the Rat King has a lot of good lore because he made a pact with some king in the past. We really don't know who that king is that he made a pact with, but that basically the rats would own the underground area and the people and the humans would stay above ground in the light. And then at some point, humankind broke that pact, and that's why now he hates all humans. And we get a lot of that too, like the Gurms hate humans, and humans were dicks to Gurms, and apparently humans have been dicks to rats. And
giants. Obviously.
Oh yeah, and giants too. So so humans aren't very good people.
They're humans all along.
Or creatures, I guess.
And the idea of all of these traps too that are set up by Pharos, and ultimately like where Pharos may have ended up. I know that's something that you posited in one of your videos.
Dave. And I won't go too far into it, but it is interesting to me that, I mean, it's hard with the Pharos Lockstone because when you read the description, it's like, well, anyone could have made Pharos stuff, so you're like, okay. But really, there's so many of these Pharos traps in all the Rat Bro areas that kind of makes it seem like, all right, this is probably a Pharos connection, when that is literally the entire area is strewn with these contraptions.
So the theory being that Pharos was an expatriate from the world of sunlight who came down here to aid the rats in protecting their kingdom, right?
Yeah. At least initially, before his ultimate possible fate, which we'll talk about. soon.
Yeah.
Without trying not to get too spoily. But the Rat King is really like, I like his dialogue a lot. I like his character. When I first ran into him, and we'll talk about the boss fight, we're not skipping that. When I first ran into him, somebody did a Soapstone message that said "miscreant, therefore revenge," and I was like, oh yeah, I do want revenge on this motherfucker, and I attacked him. But then when he, because I just thought he was a rat or he's going to do something. But then when he attacked or talked, you get your chance to actually dialogue with him.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, whoops.
Yeah, sorry, buddy. Sorry, my lord.
Yeah, actually, something you guys were talking about last week with the Undead Purgatory a couple weeks ago. I like it. I accidentally killed that Covenant Keeper because I didn't get the right what you needed. And I was just like in the beta, I thought that was how you made it so you could talk to him. Because he came back right away with the gravestone. I was like, oh, cool, all right, maybe that's how you like. Because he said he loves blood. He started laughing in the beta when you start attacking him. I was like, all right, cool. He's into this.
Here's some blood.
Yeah.
Hurt me more.
I'm spilling your blood. He's a masochist.
That's number 3.
Metal Soul is solid.
That's on DeviantArt, right?
That's probably a thing. Gross. Before you make your way to the end. Before you actually make it to the Rat King, though, you fight the Royal Rat Vanguard.
Or Vanguard the Royal Rat.
Yeah, Vanguard Authority, the Royal Rat. Which is, have you seen that, Dave? The video that's like the fake 90s pro tips video for Dark Souls bosses?
No, I haven't.
I'll send it to you in email. It's great.
Yeah, I want to watch that.
Yeah, it's really funny.
It's pitch perfect.
And they just mingle all the names. Vanguard, the Royal Rat.
They call Iron Keep the Magma Mansion.
Yeah.
Sounds right. Sounds about right. Yeah, no, definitely send me that. I want to watch that.
Yeah, I will send it to you after we record.
All right. Right now.
My keyboard is really loud. I don't. I try not to type while we record.
Actually, my screen just went black, so I can't see anything. I don't know why I can't get it off. It's like I'm putting in sleep mode for some reason.
Uh-oh.
But my recording's still working, and you can hear me, so I'm like, whatever. I'll just go with it.
Yeah.
I didn't even look at my computer.
We will guide you.
Yes.
Royal Rat Vanguard. What were you guys' experience when you your first fight with this guy?
Man, I love this fight.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I mean, I don't know. Unique is a strong word, but for me, this really underlined because I got to this kind of early on. It underlined how different the boss fights in Dark Souls 2 were going to be. So the idea that I am obviously trapped into a boss arena and I'm just kind of waiting, the way that it builds up anticipation, like, well, I might as well kill rats. And then ultimately when it came here, like it struck me as kind of so fresh and new. That and you kill a rockin' rad bad dude rat with a mohawk.
It's a rad dude.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Dip?
I'm kind of mixed on it. I thought it was a little too easy, I suppose. It was a really easy fight, but I do like that how different it was. That I was excited about. I was like, wow, this is a totally different style of a boss fight. And mixed in with everything else, I guess I really don't mind the ease. So yeah, I guess like overall I liked it. I did like that it was different. And I got in there, and I think I figured right away that was something where if you kill enough rats, he would show up. So I just started doing that. But yeah, it was great because it was something so different than every other fight in the game.
It's got a really like the arena is a really striking set piece. Mm-hmm. Like these kind of almost like these stylized rat statues with the jugs. Are they sound way more sexist than like I got a real rat statue with a nice set of jugs
with the rockin' cans.
Yeah, the rockin' cat.
Ooh,
rat
baby!
Racks. This is another episode of Rat Racks.
Uh-oh.
Rat Racks.
Gross. But it just looks really creepy. Like these rat statues are very spooky, and there's just holes in the wall everywhere. And like the first time, I think it's easier depending on your build because my first playthrough of the game, I was kind of a weak melee character, and I was using the Black Knight halberd, which clangs on these statues.
Oh, yeah.
Like you can't really get a wide sweep. So I had a really hard time with this boss fight. And anytime you have any kind of area effect, it's super easy. If you have a range attack, it's super easy. But this first thing where all I could use was this halberd that I could barely swing in this area. Like it was great. Like it was really tense, and I ended up having to run from both sides to heal like constantly. in order to make Vanguard the Royal Rat appear. And when he does, he has that mohawk, which cracked me up. Again, Dark Souls 2 is funny. It's like a Stripe from Gremlins.
Yeah, I had a katana, so it was like up, down, slash attacks.
Oh, yeah.
You do realize with rat racks being out there now, someone's going to rule authority for it, right?
Yeah.
You put it out there, it's going to happen.
Rat racks. I'm just glad that we're able to help.
Making a difference for the kids.
Yeah. For the
Future
kids.
generations to come, you're welcome.
It all started here.
Yeah, but at least like with the mohawk, it's nice that they made it so it was a difference where you're like, oh, that's the one. You can immediately realize who the boss one is.
Yeah.
The boss, 90s.
Boss in
90s
that
idea.
sense, yeah. He's
Or like
very
80s,
boss.
90s, like he's got the mohawk, he's the badass.
He's a trapper keeper rat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A pog.
Yeah. Man, I would play the fuck out of a Royal Rat Vanguard pog.
And that would be the
Like,
slammer.
That'd be my slammer.
Okay, let's fast track that into some kind of merch. Dark Souls 2 pogs.
Yeah, we could do a Royal Rat
That's-
Vanguard T-shirt of the month, one-off T-shirt for Patreon.
Well, it include
there
a
we go,
rat
folks.
rack.
Yeah, well, it covers up your rat rack.
It accentuates.
Yeah, accentuates and highlights the rat rack.
Boom.
Even like I don't have any interest in pogs, but I like Dark Souls 2 enough, or Dark Souls enough to where if there were Dark Souls pogs, I'd probably buy them and just have them as little chips.
I wonder if they
Yeah.
still exist. I used to have like pog collecting tubes where you could put all your pogs in
Yeah.
a tube.
Yeah, I'm sure they still exist. There's got to still be like countries that are still haven't moved past pog technology into Xboxes.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have the technology.
Yeah, get a
We need to
3DS,
use the
people.
pog.
Yeah. We've got the Super Bowl loser shirts, and we got pogs with Dark
Yeah.
Souls.
And
or
yeah,
Rat.
so it's like just some backwards country that's so backwards they still trapper keepers and pogs.
Yeah, it's got to be out there.
Uh,
So if you're from like
You're stuck 10
Micronesia
years
or
in
what
the
have you,
past.
don't please don't send us hate mail.
please.
We mean a non-specific
Yeah.
country of
You just
we-
made that specific. I don't think we
No,
put
I
any
guess
countries out there.
yeah, we didn't say anything.
we're talking
Micronesians.
about the country you hate.
Yeah, whichever one you don't like, whatever Eurasia you happen to be at war with, that's who
Yeah.
we're at war with as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a cool boss fight. It's not too hard. Unlike the other fucking rat boss fight, which is a nightmare. This one, it took me 1,000 tries, but this one was, just took me a try, but it was very tense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
Yes.
claustrophobic as fuck. Just those rats streaming in through the holes in the wall.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like the end of Ben or Willard.
Yeah. I love getting as they're leaving. You can get in your last little swipes and try to kill as many motherfuckers as you can on the way out.
I never tried that. I was like, all right, I did it. I was honorable.
Yeah,
But I'm a rat pro. I can't be honorable.
it's true, exactly. And you need their tails.
Yeah. Humans bring
That is
only
funny
filth.
to me. That's kind of ironic that to join the rat covenant, even though they hate people who don't like rats, you give them a rat tail.
It's like,
you
yeah,
get
I think it's
rat
you
tails.
conquered one of their burrows. Like it's this like mark of progress,
Well, yeah, it's a mark of strength.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the Royal Rat Vanguard soul says he is there to test the worthiness of people
Yeah.
who are going after the king. So
Man, what a bad job to get.
Yeah. I know.
yeah.
Poor guy.
It's like Ornstein the Smo's job. Like, just
yeah,
test
this
the
is what we're
worthiness of
reduced to.
someone for the Lord vessel.
Yeah, and here's just a big pile of rats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would also buy the fuck out of a plush Royal Rat Vanguard toy
With
If someone
optional
made, like-
skull throne
yeah,
or mandatory skull throne.
yeah, no option.
You know, I never collect things, but I actually, with Dark Souls, I'm like, I want it.
Yeah.
I want every Dark Souls
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, me too, man. Make action figures. Yeah, so then you talk to the Rat King as we mentioned. Who had this had some kind of alliance with Pharaohs, we think, but anyway had a treaty with the humans, which they broke because humans are assholes in this game. And you can make your way down to the pit past this huge crucified giant skeleton. Mm-hmm. Do you have any ideas on that, Dave?
I kind of agree with Vadi's idea that it's likely it's Harvel. As you get to the Harvel's resting place bonfire just before that, and then immediately you see those dangling legs as you walk in. I think that's it. Or it could be, maybe that was the king, who betrayed them. I don't know, but I think Harvel's a very likely answer for that.
And Harville is so close to Havel, and we're so close to Havel's gear. Like, it almost seems like one of those corruptions of language thing.
Mm-hmm.
It does seem possible with that, too, with Harville. Because, it is right by where you find Havel's gear. But, yeah, I mean, it would definitely be... It would seem to be indicated that some human who betrayed the rats. Mm-hmm. But it's also giant, though. It's bigger than a normal human.
Yeah, and there are more than just those. There are also other giant skeletons that we find.
Yeah, like throughout, there's like little tombstone areas where you see human bones throughout and stuck in. Like at the top near the Royal Rat Vanguard, there's a little opening that you can go into, and there's more human skeletons in there.
Yeah, yeah, and it gives a kind of question as to why it's called the Grave of the Saints. You know, who these saints are, and it's kind of interesting. There's a little bit in the Nextel area. We're not going to talk about it just yet, but there's a new game plus Easter egg that is in the next area where somebody shows up from the past that just kind of, you know, possibly lends some kind of light to it as who these saints could be that are here. It's just kind of interesting.
Game plus stuff like in this game.
Yeah,
which I'm really mixed about.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to do that episode because there's so much of it that it's hard to separate what is significant versus what is like a nostalgia Easter egg.
Yeah.
So
there's one in particular, and I'm not going to say, you guys might be able to guess if you play New Game Plus, but there's just one instance in New Game Plus that I love where they change things. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's way too broad to make you guess it.
That is
okay, so there's something that was in the Seldora region, that area, where I just love what they did with New Game Plus.
Yes.
And that's all I'll say.
That is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
That is probably my favorite change. I wanted more stuff like that.
Me too.
Even though
I like that they have things like that, and it made New Game Plus exciting. All those new changes, and people were watching me stream one time, and I didn't even realize that there were extra Black Phantoms in this one area. And I went to go look down and respond to comments, and all of a sudden I looked up and my character was dying, being backstabbed by a Black Phantom who was new. I was like, "What? What?"
Yeah, it's great.
I didn't know.
Like, They do it. That's another one of those things when we talk about the difference between the two games. That's another thing I think is a categorical improvement. Like New Game Plus in Dark Souls 2 is much better than New Game Plus in Dark Souls 1.
No.
So that's more or less Grave of the Saints and that Covenant and Sinner's Rise.
Yeah.
Next time we're going to be heading further down in the pit, which looks a little bit like a sewer, a familiar sewer.
Yeah.
Going into the gutter, which when I first saw that name, I laughed and texted everyone I know. like that is what they're going to call Blighttown. There's just no hiding it anymore. Just gutter.
Next stop, Crackton and Bumtown.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Eventually, it's just going to be called just a picture of a turd. They won't even get a name for it. Like in the next game, it's just going to be like a little emoticon, like an emoji of a smiling.
The emoji of the poop pile.
Yeah, the poop emoji.
Literally be trudging through poop.
Yeah.
Be like the great giant poo from Conquer's Bad Fur Day.
Exactly. That'll be the leechmonger at the bottom of that pile too.
The dirty Colossus. The dirty Colossus.
And we'll be joined by Vivian, who traditionally has been, I guess she actually wasn't on the Blighttown episode for the first season. I thought she was, but she was in second season. Mm-hmm. Joined us for 5-1.
Yeah, I expected her to be in for Amana. She tends to pick the frustrating areas.
Yeah. No, but I think I kind of conscripted her for this.
Okay,
just because she mentioned it when we talked about it. She said whatever is the gross Blighttown thing. I think she says in the episode, really? Whatever the Blighttown is for Dark Souls 2, I want to be there. I'm like, yep, you got it. So
nice.
Yeah, you're in. So thank you, Dave.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me.
Where can people find you on the internet?
Peeps can find me on the internet at the Dave Klein on Twitter. That's Klein. Or if you like Dark Souls stuff, I don't know if you guys do if you're listening to this, but if you do, check me out on YouTube at Dave Control Live. There is no live content, but that is the name of the channel. It's
a reference to the band. It's videos of Dave, and then it's just lightning crashes as performed by Dave. I highly recommended. I think in the world of like Dark Souls lore stuff, like I said, we have a lot of options right now. So sometimes it is hard to find, where you're going to get new stuff. And I like your videos a lot. I think that is mandatory supplementary content. So good work.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Do we want to talk about the announcements?
Yes. Yeah. Let's talk about the announcements a little bit. Sorry, I might have jumped the gun a little bit.
That's fine. Don't worry.
On that.
Yeah, I mean, that exits the
kind of stressed out.
What's that?
I'm kind of stressed out about it.
I'm wringing my hands here, but I'm just rolling with the flow.
A bunch of stuff has happened in the world of Souls news since last time we recorded.
Like a nice little 1-2 punch. So From is going back on their word. Their signed sacred contract with the fan base when they said there would be no DLC, and they're putting out DLC, and they're ruining the game forever.
What a bunch of monsters.
The pendant, by the way, actually has a secret to it that we still haven't uncovered.
Yeah. Those monsters. Yeah, I don't understand how anybody is mad about this. Like, it's so ridiculous.
It's a cash grab. On this DLC.
Don't buy it.
Yeah.
Like if you don't want to play it, don't buy it. If you do want to play it, buy it.
Yeah, that's my thing. It's like if you are so against it, then speak with your wallet. Don't buy it, and they won't make more DLC. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, to me, Dark Souls 2 felt like a complete experience. So I don't feel like I missed out on anything necessarily. You know, it was a long game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm always going to want more of it. Like, it's not, and it's not, I don't want to sound like, like I'm getting taken advantage of with that, like just anything they put their name on, but like, I do want to see what twist this give to the lore, and I want to see what new ideas they can do. Like that's worth it to me. Like, every one of these games I have played through so many times that I'm getting my money's worth many, many times over. Yeah. And that's not even counting doing the show and getting involved in the community. Yeah. Like I've gotten my money's worth so many times.
Yeah.
From these things.
That, and they don't have a track record of fucking with us.
Yeah, totally.
Well, other than the torches and the graphics, but
yeah. Which is disappointing, but not in the grand scheme of things. How big of a deal is it? Like it is disappointing. Is it a betrayal? Like, is it Game of Thronesian? Is like their kingdom has not invaded ours. It is just a disappointing tech thing. Like, they couldn't get the game to run well with that.
No. I mean, it wasn't a huge betrayal to me, but yeah, I mean, like, the only thing I dislike about it is I don't like episodic content and episodic DLC. I'm very much against it in general. So to me, I don't like that aspect. If it's all one big DLC pack for like $20, I'd be fine. Yeah. But like, that's just more of my personal gripe with it. But yeah, I'm excited for new content, and I think if you're skeptical about it and all that, then just don't buy it and wait to see what people say. But Artorias of the Abyss DLC was such a good DLC pack that I'd like to hope that this one's going to be just as good.
Yeah.
And the episodic nature is ameliorated a little bit by the real steady release schedule. It's not like it's going to come out and then we don't know when the next one's going to come out.
The fact that they've committed to dates is pretty huge. So to bring a little bit of like factual basis to this, to let people know what we're talking about in case they absolutely haven't heard about it, which that's a weird assumption. But hey, for archival purposes, From announced a 3 set of DLC: the Crown of the Sunken King, the Crown of the Old Iron King, and the Crown of the Ivory King, coming out July 22nd, August 26th, and September 24th, roughly every 30 days over the course of this summer. Kind of extending these things, and kind of the broad arc that all this is going to follow is that the undead, your character, is going after the crowns of these old kingdoms that Vendrick once had possession of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And is hopefully going to shed a lot of light on what those were. Mm-hmm. And we're probably going to talk about those as we go. Like, it is likely that once those are all wrapped up, we'll end up doing an episode on them. Mm-hmm. The same way we did Artorias of the Abyss. But if they reflect on the areas we've already talked about, or areas we're going to talk about, we're going to mention that stuff.
Yeah, there's going to be a great deal of revisionism, I expect, in terms of some of the assumptions we've made up to that point. So these are going to wrap up right around the time that we get to Drangleic Castle proper. And so, this will inform, kind of the way the end game section of the show is structured.
I'm very curious to see if I'm going to have to redo some of my lore videos based on this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally possible. And the where we will put the episode that we do on the DLC, we're not sure. And that's going to depend on where it kind of fits, gameplay-wise and story-wise, like when you're meant to do it. We ended up doing the Artorias one second to last, right before the end game. So
I'm very curious how they're going to have us get to it.
I know that
answer, but I don't know if you want to know or not.
Yeah, Bob texted me where you get to it as well. Oh. But we'll leave that off the air. Yeah. Since some people are probably going to want to hunt around for it.
True.
Yeah. I'll probably actually. I'm about to do. I was at E3 and I actually got to have a chance to play Dark Souls 2 DLC at E3, and that's how I know where it is because they let me just backtrack however much I wanted, and I'm going to do an impressions video on. I got to play for 30 minutes this Sunken King DLC, and I'm actually going to be working on after this my impressions video, and I have some new B-roll to show people, and I'll talk about at the end of the video where to find it and make sure people know to click off if they don't want to watch that. But yeah, so I'll talk about that.
Just because I'm an impatient child and I'm editing this episode and I'm willing to take this hit, can you say it and I'll beep it out?
Yeah, sure. So you find it in the.
Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Now you can unbleep it and go back to normal.
Back to normal. Yeah.
But I think some impressions I can say that people might want to hear, because I'm sure people are curious if this is worth getting or not, is this DLC feels a lot more puzzle-oriented in a way. There's definitely things that you have to do that are puzzle-related. It's very gamey in the sense of using these puzzle aspects to reach certain unreachable areas and get to new places. And there's actually some cool environmental stuff where you're only going to be able to get to specific areas if you really actually search the environment and look for things in the distance. Like there's one that I had a guy overseeing me from Bandai Namco as I was playing the game, and he noticed something way in the distance off in a little cave that you could never walk to. You just have to like shoot an arrow at to unlock something. And I was just like, well, I didn't notice that. Thanks for showing that to me. And he only noticed at this time, like right at the spot. So it's cool. I like that they have that environmental searching in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very puzzle oriented.
I'm down with that.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly don't know too much about what to expect. I just know that I'm into it. Like I'm into checking it out, at least coming to it with a full heart and open mind. Speaking of full heart and open mind, also Bloodborne.
Yes.
Holy shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah,
this
is the Sony the Sony E3 press conference, putting that out there. How heartening is it that got probably the biggest cheer when they announced Miyazaki and From? Like just the fact that was there is like, yeah, okay, things like this is a good spot. Like that, like there is a little bit of justice in this world. And then showing that CG trailer. Yeah, and all the supplementary information around this, saying it's going to be a little bit more fast-paced combat, a little bit more focused on like hit and run kind of stuff. But they're kind of saying all the right stuff around it, to my mind.
I kind of talked about how, to me, when I was watching the gameplay at E3, and I got to watch the 10-minute demo of it, it didn't look too dissimilar from Dark Souls. But after I made my video where I was talking about Bloodborne, I was thinking about it, and I think that's because I played Dark Souls as a dual-wielding, no shield rolling through character.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the style of play that they were playing as, was the style of play I play as in Dark Souls. So it looks like it's possibly built around that style of play. But yeah, at the Sony press conference, when it said directed by Hidetaka Miyazaki at the very beginning, that was what got me excited. I was like, yes, he actually is the game director. Because with the announcement of him being the president of FromSoft, it was kind of like, oh, well, did he work on Bloodborne or did he not? And that kind of raised the question for me. So I was excited when that bit of text appeared.
Yeah, it's worth noting that in the gameplay videos, there's no shields. When you talk about that dual wield style, is that no one is using a shield in any of the gameplay footage they've shown.
Well, there were enemies, and this is something I missed. And it's actually in my video, so I had to put an annotation. But an enemy has a shield. But as far as anything they've shown with the character you play,
that's what I meant. Yeah,
and even other hunters. There's other hunters that they showed, like another hunter that you run into that you can co-op with, and even that guy in one hand is a gun, and one hand is a like the blade type of scythe thing. Yeah. So yeah, in any gameplay I've seen for your hero, they don't have a shield.
Right.
Yeah.
Or hunter hero.
Pretty interesting. I have a stoking a game boner on for this game, which is a thing I don't really do. Typically, I'm a patient gamer, and I get excited about stuff, but I am also take everything with a grain of salt, and don't have tons of money, so I tend not to be able to buy things that don't have Souls or Fallout in the name right when they come out. But this is something that I am crazy excited for. It just looks so good. Like the environment just looks really, really neat.
What got me to buy Dark Souls 1 in the first place, I hadn't played Demon's Souls because I didn't have a PS3 at the time, and now I have. But I mean, I hadn't at the time. And it was around the time I was working at G4, and the Bartholomew trailer came out. And I just saw the Bartholomew trailer, and I was like, this game looks like my type of game. It looks like a game I would love. And when the game came out and G4 was playing it, I asked the guy who was doing it, like, hey, so I really want this game. Should I get it? And he goes, no, it's awful. It's unfair. It's cheap. You should never play this. And I didn't listen to him, and I bought it anyways. And obviously fell in love with it. And this trailer, not this trailer, but the gameplay, the leaked gameplay trailer of Bloodborne, that one that got leaked, that you can actually watch. If you search on YouTube, leaked gameplay trailer, you can find it. That one is on the level of excitement for me as the Bartholomew trailer for Dark Souls 1.
Yeah.
For how good it looks.
God, the environments, man.
Yeah.
Like if this is where the lighting model goes, I'm so happy. Okay, like let's call a mulligan on doing this crazy high contrast style and do it in a place that can do it justice with the performance.
Yeah, they were actually showing that off, and I thought that was ironic that during the gameplay demo. They were like, and look, this area is really dark, but then if you use a torch, it'll help you see the way. And I was like, I feel like I remember seeing this a year ago. But yeah, I think with PS4's engine, it should be able to handle it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm a little bit bummed that it's PS4 exclusive, but I think the next piece, the next most salient piece of information I'm looking for is a hard release date.
Yeah. For me, I haven't bought a next-gen console yet, and I've kind of just been waiting to see because there aren't any exclusives really yet that made me say I need this system. But between this and honestly, the thing I was excited about that was announced at E3 was the Grim Fandango remake.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Between those, that was actually the only thing. Well, I was watching a stream of the announcements, and that was the one thing during the stream. I was like, yes!
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, that was the one thing I cheered for out loud was a remake, which is kind of sad. But regardless, those two things had me wanting a PS4.
Yeah.
And especially Bloodborne. I still looks amazing.
Yeah. A little bit bummed out. I spent my PS4 money on a PC, so back to square one, I guess. I don't know.
Luckily, you have like a year and a half.
That's true.
Or, a year to refill that coffer.
Yep.
That's how I'm thinking about it. Because my PS3 is just a Demon Souls machine, more or less. And my PS4 will be a Bloodborne machine.
To answer your question, Gary, yes, I will send you Last of Us.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Sorry about that.
And then it will cease to be just a Demon Souls machine.
I still can't play Last of Us. Even though my PS3 is it's a developer build or developer PS3.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it hasn't been updated, and you can't play more updated games. So, yeah, I haven't played Last of Us yet.
Oh, that's sad.
I also can't play online with my PS3. People have been wanting to co-op with me in Demon Souls. I'm like, I'm sorry, I just can't. I literally can't.
Yeah, so it's an exciting week for Souls, honestly.
Leading into an exciting year.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bloodborne just looks amazing. I was really surprised by the DLC announcement. That one threw me off guard, especially since we knew Bloodborne was going to be announced.
Yeah.
That one threw me for a big loop.
Yeah, I'll take it though.
Did
that was like a Sonic loop. I ran up the loop.
So was this stuff shown at the Namco booth, or was from? Did they just have a presence on the show floor themselves?
It was in the Sony's area.
Okay.
Because I think it's Sony Japan, or the one that helped bring Project Eco to Sony is the same team.
Okay.
But so I don't think Bandai Namco has anything to do with Bloodborne, which I'm sure they're probably pretty sad they're missing out on that.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I feel I'm like good for them that they at least had the Dark Souls 2 DLC to kind of extend that hype around Bandai Namco, so maybe they can try and show off Lords of the Fallen a little bit more and prep for a new game.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Yeah, I think that's probably so you'll hear about that as more news becomes available. And so as we mentioned, definitely go and check out Dave's stuff on the interwebs on YouTube. Highly recommended. Yeah. Where can people find us, Cole?
Well, people can find us at Duckfeed.tv. We do a bunch of shows about various things related to video games and otherwise. Specific to this show, iTunes ratings and reviews are always helpful. And also we have a very active Facebook group at facebook.com/bonfiresidechat.
Yeah, jump on it. And we will come back in about 2 weeks and talk to you about The Pit.
Yeah,
and the gutter.
And finally, here just another thanks to Nick Daniel of Latchkey Kingdom, our sponsor for our new show art, which is going up with this episode. It is fucking great.
Yes, that is a great job.
Ooh, I can't wait to see that.
A real inbox brightener. Both times that I've seen it. So, or when we first got it, and then we also had a color version that came, and they're both beautiful. So, thank you so much, Nick.
And also Patreon, patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Get the episodes early. Even as little as $1 helps us out tremendously.
Yeah. Yeah, access to the production blog, access to polls and such that we're having. So it's a good, fun time.
Yeah.
Can I just throw out, you guys are doing really well on iTunes. I was really impressed.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, we've been going at it for a good long time, and people have been very nice to us.
Yes.
So very
That's
supportive
fantastic.
fan group. Yeah, they're wonderful people.
Definitely.
Each and every one of them. Yeah. So I think that's probably about it.
Just about.
So yeah. What can they do?
Well, they can seek misery, lest this land swallow them whole.
And they can also thank you one more time, Dave.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, guys. I had a blast. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, no problem.
Basa.
Umbasa.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon.
Bassa.